What'd you do?
It's gonna rain today?
I bought so I don't know. It's called Human Shop.
Okay. I feel like it's been dark all day.
I was down in Philly today.
Yeah.
And I put it on my hair. It wasn't raining too bad. I put the car on my hair. And I mixed
So what does that do?
And I mixed it in like
Yeah, the char.
North Baltimore. Cleared up.
mixed it in
On and off
with
down there.
It's December 16th at 6:17. We'll call the roll, please.
Puffenberger. Yes. Barrow.
Yes.
Fiskus.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Lineback.
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. There's no need for executive session tonight, so we'll cancel that. And we'll move to Committee of the Whole. President Barrow?
Thank you, Mayor McNally. Before we do that, is there something that you want?
Yes, I actually have a proclamation, if you don't mind. Thank you. You can read during this time. This is actually going to a business in town that's been around for quite some time. I thought it was appropriate that we recognize you. And tonight we have Jeannie Polinsky and Jamie Verbeek. They're here tonight. If you want to step up, I'd like to read the proclamation to you. If you want to step up to the mic. And if you have a few things to say after that, that'd be fine. Congratulations on keeping a small business like you have going in the city. Small businesses obviously are a critical part of what we do in the city. Every day. Service. Thank you, and I just want to read this, what you guys have done. So whereas Allure, the art of beauty, has been vibrant part of our community for the past 10 years, providing exceptional hair, skin, and nail services to clients and cultivating a reputation for professionalism, creativity, and personalized customer care. And whereas Allure, the art of beauty, is an Aveda concept eco-friendly salon and spa, attracting loyal customers and continually raising the standard for beauty and hair services in our area. Whereas the talented team of professionals at Allure, the art of beauty, has demonstrated commitment to excellence by creating an inclusive and welcoming environment for all clients of all backgrounds, promoting self-confidence and helping individuals feel their best. And whereas the city of Maumee is honored to celebrate Allure, the art of beauty, for marking their 10th anniversary, is therefore resolved that I, James McDonald, Mayor, do hereby proclaim December 16th as Allure, the art of beauty day in the city of Maumee. Congratulations.
I think you've pretty much said it all. We love being in Maumee. We are celebrating our 10-year anniversary tomorrow night. We'll have a ribbon cutting at noon. Everybody's invited, as well as from 6 to 8, we'll be having local vendors and all kinds of gifts for clients and anybody new who would like to stop in.
We're always open. Always open. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
for all
you.
you've done
Thank
and
you.
The longevity you've had in our community.
Thank you. Thank you. We love Maumee.
And Jeannie just said, now we have to get back to work, but thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. And actually next, President Barrow, if you don't mind, we're going to have Bill Burry, who's part of our tree commission and environmental commission. He's one of our volunteer part-time people that kind of work there, and he would like to explain the tree design plan for this next coming year, which I think is very important. And so, Bill, you just have a few minutes, or 10 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And thank you for coming, Bill. Appreciate it.
Mayor McDonald, Mr. Birch, council persons, good evening. We're here tonight to introduce you to the street tree planting design program for the city of Maumee. First, I would like to introduce you to our team of volunteers. Jamie Dye. Mark Ehrman and Jason Mendelson were not able to make it. Councilperson Margot Puffenberger and Mary Rubai, and myself. Over the last 25 years, it is estimated that our community has lost 30% of its tree canopy. The causes are numerous. Economic expansion, diseases such as Dutch elm and beech leaf disease, and pests, the emerald ash borer and the box elder bug. Our urban forest is in dire need of replenishment. We will attempt to plant 2,000 trees per year for the next 10 years to restore what has been lost. To do this, we need a plan rather than trial and error, gut feeling, or best guess. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Forestry, developed the Street Tree Planting Design Program in 2009. It is a systematic approach for evaluating tree planting sites with corresponding species evaluation. This rapid assessment tool observes soil and street conditions and assigns a number between 0 and 20 for a street or block. Over the last 9 months, the team has surveyed every street in Maumee. Tree lawn assessments were made using these criteria: vegetation, surface compaction, soil probe depth, soil layers, speed limits, number of lanes, parking, length of blocks, tree lawn size, overhead electric, and curbing and sidewalks. Each section of each street gets its own score. 0 to 8, no trees. 9 to 11 is a poor site. 12 to 15 is an intermediate site, and 16 to 20 is a good site. There are a lot of good sites in this town. Based on these measurements and scores, each block or section is now color-coded by color, coded by color on the map to indicate whether a large tree, a medium tree, a small tree, or no tree goes there. Once the map is color-coded, the planting design plan has a list of trees corresponding to each color. There are 2 blocks segments per family, and this is in separation. 2 blocks per family. 4 blocks or segments between genuses, and 6 blocks or segments between species. Using different species assures a balanced tree canopy. In addition, it'll minimize disease and pest threats. There will be scenic diversity traveling through town, and it will minimize the need for dramatic trimming under conduction lines. The street tree planting design is a well-ordered approach to the development of a meaningful master planting design. When this information is entered into the city's GIS files, there will be a guide to plant the right tree in the right place for the next 50 to 100 years. There is a proverb that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today." Thank you very much.
Bill?
Thank you, Bill.
I had one question.
Go ahead.
There is a map up here of the entire city, and everyone is welcome to go up and take a look at it. And it's not quite finished yet, but it will be done in January. And we just have a few streets left to assign trees to, so.
Thank you. We'll open it up to a few questions of people on council.
Yeah, I had a question, Bill. Thank you. It was a great presentation. I read your full report. Could you share with the audience and those that watching online the effects that the mature trees have on the rainwater that enters the ground?
It is said that trees will absorb 20% of rainfall water.
Just in the leaves itself.
Just in the leaves and roots itself.
Before it hits the ground. Or there is some water absorption in there, Bill, before it hits the ground?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I was pointing that out only because, now it's about the water that's entering our river systems and, pesticides, fertilizers, all that type of nature can be absorbed by the trees in your own yard without getting dispersed to the waterways is a really good thing. Thank you.
Right.
Just a session of clarification. The 20% number is for a tree that's less than 10 years old. A mature tree will absorb about 40% of the rain that hits it before it gets to the ground. Mature canopy.
Right.
And we've got some graphics on the website that say a little bit more about exactly how many gallons and 1 tree to 10 trees and...
Right.
In knowing some of the tree seminars that I've been to with you, just to learn a little bit about this, obviously it's a very well thought out plan. There's an intentionality piece to it that is very important about why, when, where, how, all those things. And it's not just, throwing arrows at something, that there's a purpose to it. And I really appreciate the committee that have given volunteer time and very interesting information that they've gathered and facts that are beneficial to the community for many, many years to come. So I appreciate your time and your wisdom and everything that you bring to this and your desire, along with all the others that serve on this committee, because it is important we look at this and we have a plan. So thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Noonan.
Yeah, thank you. I do have one more question. One question. I see that when these trees will be planted, I see that this could be uploaded in the city's GIS files. So are we going to be submitting that to the county engineer's office to update the maps? How does that work when it's in the GIS?
I'm not aware of any ESRI component of the county's map that would map our trees.
Okay.
The nice thing about it is it'll be put into our GIS, which is ESRI, which means anybody will be able to download that online on the computer and click on a tree and get the species, the age, when it was planted, so on. So we'll know exactly what the species and genus of every tree is and every lawn, and so will citizens who are able to access that program.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you.
And it actually gives us an outline of what tree can go in that particular piece of real estate.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Bondoc.
Yes, I had just a couple comments. No questions. It's thorough. I wanted to commend your group for showing a very data-driven, boots-on-the-ground, systematic, well-thought-out process, as you use that word for that street design.
They did a great job.
I think it's a good model for a lot of projects that we need to undertake. And the second, when you talked about the proverb that mentioned about the second best time to plant a tree is today, brought to mind a quote. It's either attributed to Martin Luther or John Wesley, who said, "If I knew the Lord were coming again tomorrow, I would plant a tree today."
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Burry. Appreciate your...
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. We're still in committee of the whole, Mr. Barrow, and I would like to add one additional thing, if you wouldn't mind. It has to do with the agenda. I'd like to move 10B to 11G, move it out of the consent calendar. And then on that specific requesting Mr. Fiskus abstain from that.
Okay.
Nothing further to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We'll begin committee of the whole. Does anybody have any questions on our agenda or anything? Councilman Lineback?
Thank you, Council President. Dr. Birch, could you just explain on consent calendar item 11C, that, I don't know if it's now B, with that change, just about the license agreement with MSA and Associates, what that is?
That's going to be our law director,
Okay.
Councilman.
Yes, this license agreement for some property that's being sold in Maumee. There's a minimal encroachment of the building on the right-of-way. I think it's like 6 inches. And also this agreement would allow for improved accessibility to the structure. So there's going to be another encroachment based on the accessibility in the right-of-way. So to allow them to close on the property, the buyer wants to confirm that we're not going to make them tear down the building because it encroaches on the right-of-way, which is, based on surveys that were done in the 1800s. I'm sure there's a lot of properties that are 6 inches off their property lines.
And it's the Bob Miller interior building.
Yeah, okay.
Miller Diversified is purchasing the property.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, having seen that, I just want to make a point here on, under 11A and 11B, the Personnel Committee was making some recommendations to council. Also, then the Finance Committee reviewed those and also made similar recommendations. Thank you.
C and C.
Sorry?
A, B, and C.
I'm sorry, thank you, A, B, and C. Are there any other concerns or comments? Having seen none, this concludes Committee of the Whole.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to citizen comments. 3 minutes. Ms. Plotkin?
Good evening. I want to touch briefly on Monday with Margot that came out the Monday after my last meeting here, which was 11/18/24. And I'm sure it was just a big misunderstanding. But so what I did is I had what I said here transcribed by somebody because in Mondays with Margot it accused me of threatening her. So anybody who would like to see this, I'm sure it was a misunderstanding. She misunderstood something I said, whatever. I had this transcribed so everybody could see that there was absolutely no threats made. Just want to make that clear. I'll leave that up here. I was going through the packet, and I guess I'm wondering why raises have to be done on an emergency basis. That should be something that is done over 3 readings. It shouldn't be, oh, hey, this is what we're going to do, we're going to do it. And also, since, in honor of transparency, we hear all kinds of rumors, and so on and so forth, and I see a raise for our administrator. I'm hearing he's making upwards towards $280,000, so I would really like to know what our administrator's total salary is, including his overtime pay, comp time, differential comp, things like that. And also, everybody says that there's so much lies going around. There seems to be so many rumors going around about his severance pay. I'd like to know what his total severance pay is. I wanted to include his sick time, insurance, everything, the total amount. And I know that they're backed up with public records request, but just trying to dispel some rumors here. I'm just really confused and concerned that all of this is done in an emergency, and I don't think that it needs to be done in an emergency. So.
Thank you. We'll move on. Margaret Earhart, please. You want to come to the mic?
Cold, wet evening, everyone. I am very belated in this, but I would like to offer my thanks to Councilmember Barrow and Councilmember Puffenberger for the Common Ground film that they presented jointly at the indoor. It was very entertaining, it was educational, and it was eye-opening, and it was about climate change. And the film went on to explain how climate change is everywhere. It isn't just in one place or another, it is everywhere. And the film displayed history and ways that it could be slowed down. I was then troubled by another member of council, Mr. Leinbach, I'm sorry, but your comments after one of the presenters said that you presented or you consulted a poll, and that poll said that people are not very interested in climate change. Well, many people say they have never been polled. I have been polled many times. And I can tell you this about polls. People pay for them. They pay because they want an opinion. They want an opinion to be able to disperse to the people that they want to reach. And they know who to call to obtain the results of the polls that they want to disperse. You will know with the first question that what the point is in the poll. And all the answers are not your own. They are all made to support the original question. So because of that, I will tell you, the polls are garbage. They mean nothing. They mean nothing. And I would tell you that those people who answered the poll, I'm certain that they care about one thing, their homeowners insurance. And homeowners insurance this year, in some states, those that still can get homeowners insurance, their insurance will increase by a cost of 25%. So climate change is real, and it's time that we embrace it, and I thank Mr. Barrow and Ms. Puffenberger for presenting the film. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Spangler? Here. Chief, could you help me with the mic, please? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Brian Spangler, 1417 Shepherd Drive. I'm here tonight because I wanted to take a minute and kind of promote my own agenda that I've been doing lately, where I've been going out of my way to reach out to people in the community, to sit down and to talk and open up good communication. By doing so, I've intentionally invited a lot of people that people didn't think we could probably sit down and have a good conversation, But those are the people that I wanted to talk to the most. And I know with that communication, you have to go into that willing to listen and not just talk. You can't think that anything productive is going to happen if you just want to cram your ideas down somebody's throat, And, inviting people, some people have trouble talked with me. Some people have definitely declined. And there's been a few others, I don't know, maybe they didn't get my message or maybe they're ignoring me, I don't know. But I just want everybody to know that you just can't, face-to-face communication is like a whole nother level. You can't honestly have a communication with somebody on a social media site with 20 other people popping in on you. And just reading a text message, it's so easy to misinterpret somebody sometimes or take it the wrong way, But I just feel like with everything I got going on in life, if I can do this, I don't see why anybody else should have an excuse not to do so, And I just want people to know that, listen, just because you got signs in your front yard don't mean that I'm going to pass you up. You're the ones I want to talk to, And, it's just, I think it's healthy, And other than that, don't be side-eyeing me at Kroger's, I'm on wheels. I'm going to chase you down and talk to you. So, but that's it. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan. And Evan. Evan, yep, we got one more. Welcome, Evan.
Hi, everybody. My name's Evan. I live at 724 Inwood Place. I'd like to thank this government for the transparency, frankly. This is how I got into local politics, by watching these live streams, by living by a council member, by having Phil Weinbach walk down my street and ask me questions. I'd like to thank you all for the public works you guys provide, the economic solutions. I mean, we have a Chick-fil-A now. We're big time. I mean, come on. It's pretty cool. The roads, the public infrastructure that we all depend on, the clean water, the electricity, again, these are all things that we take for granted, and we don't say thank you enough. So thank you. I'd also like to address the Maumee Patriot Action Committee. The people that represent the top 1% who own 20% of the housing. Go ahead, peanut gallery, laugh. They are not in favor for the working class people. I was raised here with a single family, single household income. My mom grew up on Craig Road with my brother and myself. That's the community I remember. That's the community I want it to be. So families like that can be able to have a home and not be charged an egregious amount just to live in a nice, safe community. And speaking of community, we just need to think about what this government has done from the sewer situation. Patrick Birch, and I'll say what a severance is because I've asked, it's $75,000. And the Maumee Patriot Action Committee to unseat all these council members will cost us $25,000 as a community. And they want to say it's common sense. Well, that's a bunch of BS. Common sense is you want to throw $100,000 of public taxpayer money down the drain just because you want to tear down a barn because you don't know how to govern. It's a bunch of bull crap. So I'd like to thank these council members for being competent, offering economic solutions to improve our lives and infrastructure that me and my family will enjoy for years to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't catch the speaker's name.
Evan, he lives on Inwood. Evan, yep.
Thank you.
Yes. That concludes citizen comments, and then we'll reserve to the end.
Yeah, I didn't know if you want to do it before the ordinances.
Oh, yeah, no, we'll do it at the end. We'll reserve any further comments from council administration to the end there. And we'll move to the adoption agenda. So we have a revision, as I explained in committee of the whole, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as revised. Mr. Noonan.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will make a motion to adopt the agenda as revised.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Hoffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Leinbach,
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
And approve, a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 2nd.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 2nd, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. I will second that motion. We'll call the roll on the meeting minutes, please.
Hoffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Leinbach,
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
We have no petitions and communications. We'll move to the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion in a second, and then we'll discuss these. Mr. Kurt?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move we go forward with the matters presented in the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'll second that motion. Okay, and item A is a recommendation from the city administrator authorizing the clerk to return request form for a liquor permit for Ohio Springs Incorporated without requesting a hearing to the Ohio Department of Liquor Control. Any comment on that?
Just for sheets.
Okay. And typically all liquor permits go through the police division, do they not, chief? And you do your thing in checking those out. And then we'll move to 10B, which is a recommendation from the city administrator authorizing the mayor and interim administrator to execute license agreements with MS Associates LLC or their successor for real property owned by the city at 205 Conant and the right-of-way along Broadway. I believe this was explained by our law director in committee of the whole. Any further comments from council on any of these? Okay, we'll call the roll on the consent calendar.
Hoffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Leinbach,
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
The first three ordinances under new business is relative to the Finance and Economic Development Committee and Personnel Committee that met together. Ms. Poffenberger, you were chairman of the Finance Committee. Do you have anything to offer as far as what we're looking at in the next three items?
Yes, so we're looking at, well, we looked at the 2024 appropriation amendment to the budget, and then we also looked at the raises, which were also done in personnel for the admin support, management supervisor, and administrator department directors. But then also to include a slight adjustment for comp time and getting money for that. And we discussed the landing zone fees, and we got a kind of update on economic development and some updates on getting some more new budgeting software that cities never had that will be easily be able to put out charts and graphs in regards to our budget. And we got some updates for the sewer kind of meeting schedule that's up on the website now.
Okay. Mr. Noonan, as chairman of personnel, anything to add with that, or?
No, I think Councilmember Baumgartner pretty much covered everything. Can't speak for the Finance Committee, but I just want to reiterate that every recommendation on these from the Personnel Committee was all 3-0, so unanimous. That's all.
Okay.
Same for Finance.
Thank you. So 11A is a recommendation from the Personnel and Finance and Economic Development Committees. Two motions are requested approving Ordinance 39, 2024, and an ordinance amending the Ordinance 44, 2023, salaries and compensations and benefits in terms of conditions of employment for administrative support personnel in part and declaring an emergency. So we need two motions on this, please. Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I move to suspend the rules and declare an emergency. Second on that?
I'll second that motion.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There was a request to explain why these are emergencies.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to be able to answer Ms. Pauken's question.
Yeah.
The reason I think these two committees approved these as emergency and recommended to council as emergency is because wages start January 1st for our rank and file employees, and they want to make sure that we had the ability in payroll to be able to account for that without doing 3 months of back pay, which typically happens in contract years. We're in the middle of negotiating union contracts. The firefighters are done. We have a meeting all day tomorrow with ASME for the service workers. We wanted to make sure that we were consistent. So that's why it's here.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to echo that. In my years in private industry, we didn't know what the raises were going to be until around now, and raises always took effect at the beginning of the year. So, we, in looking at our budget and understanding what we have to pay for appropriations, it kind of just happens pretty quickly. And there are other items in those changes that were important to get in place that deal with compensation. So they're in place at the beginning of the year.
Thank you. Did I get a second to suspend the rules? You did. Mr. Harris? Okay, we'll call the roll on that, please.
Offenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Viscus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
And then I move to approve ordinance 039-2024, an ordinance amending ordinance 044-2023, salaries, compensation, benefits, terms, and conditions of employment and administrative support personnel in part and declaring an emergency.
And I will second that.
Call the roll, please.
Offenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Viscus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes, but I do have...
Go ahead.
So each one of these is 2023, so just FYI. Oh, shit.
Amended.
Order in the can.
I apologize.
There's a quarter can at the end of the table there. You can put that in. He's buying dinner by the end.
All right, I apologize. Never mind. Sorry about that.
Did you go to law school? That's a legal term that
Yeah.
I'm familiar with.
Sorry, I'm just not reading correctly, sorry. Sorry for my...
So we did dispense with 11A. I was distracted there for a minute. We've dispensed with 11A, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to 11B. A recommendation from the Personnel Committee and Finance and Economic Development Committee to approve ordinance 40-2024, an ordinance amending 45-2023. This is the same thing relative to management and supervisory staff. Need two motions. Yes, Mr. Fiskus.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I move to suspend the rules and declare an emergency.
And I will second that motion.
Thank you. We'll call the roll.
Offenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Viscus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
And I move to approve ordinance 040-2024, an ordinance amending ordinance 045-2023, salaries, compensation, benefits, and terms and conditions of employment of management and supervisory staff in part and declaring an emergency.
And I will second that motion.
Call the roll, please.
Puffenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Fiskus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
And then 11C is two motions needed for this as well, to approve ordinance 41-2024, an ordinance amending 46-2023, and this is the same thing relative to department directors. Two motions, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we move forward on this by suspending the rules and declare an emergency.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald, and I'll second that motion. Call the roll.
Puffenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Fiskus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
Go ahead and proceed, Mr. Kirk.
Thank you. I move that we approve ordinance 41-2024, which is an ordinance amending ordinance 46-2023, salaries, compensation, benefits, terms, and conditions of employment of department directors, in part, and declare an emergency.
And I will second that motion. Call the roll.
Puffenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Fiskus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
And 11D is a recommendation from the city administrator approving ordinance 42-2024, an ordinance adopting landing zoning fees and declaring emergency. Anything further on that, Mr. Birch?
Let me explain it. Obviously, we went through this in committee, but this is, we have, our firefighters this year have gone out 14 times to the urgent care, where they land a helicopter in the yard. And because they don't have FAA regulated design on their landing pad or a landing pad at all, we have to block off the street from the sheets for almost an hour. Part of what Alan and I have been working on with the staff, the legal staff and construction staff at ProMedica is to make sure that we have a fee set in place that in case we have to do that, to kind of encourage them in a long way to get a proper FAA pad submitted and put it away from the sidewalk. Where they wanted to put it was the blades would be about 20 feet from the cross sidewalk at the street, which is not a good idea. So that's what this ordinance came from, and Alan drafted.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? We need two motions on this, Mr. Harris.
Yes, thank you, Mayor McDonald. First, I'd like to suspend the rules and declare an emergency.
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lineback. Yep, we'll call the roll.
Puffenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Fiskus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
And I would like to approve ordinance 042-2024, an ordinance adopting landing zone fees and declare an emergency.
I'll second that motion.
Call the roll.
Puffenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Fiskus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
11E is a recommendation from the Finance and Economic Development Committee to approve the temporary general appropriations measure 43-2024, the 2025 fiscal year budget. This is very common every year when we get to near the end of the year. We have bills that we need to pay, so council, since they have the power to appropriate, they need to pass this so we can move forward and pay bills until we get a budget in place early spring. So that's, in essence, that's what it is. Any questions on that? We need one motion to approve the temporary general appropriations measure. Mr. Noonan?
All right, thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will make a motion to approve the temporary general appropriations measure ordinance 043-2024.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'll second that motion. Okay, we'll call the roll on that on 11E.
Puffenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Fiskus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
11F is a second motion that complements E, actually. They go together. So it's a recommendation from the Finance and Economic Development Committee to amend ordinance 009-2024 to increase the 24 appropriation measures as outlined. And all this was in committee that was discussed. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'd like to make a motion to we approve the temporary general appropriations measure, ordinance 043-2024.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. The next one, I'm sorry, 009-2024 to increase 2024 appropriation measures as outlined. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. I will second that motion.
Any further discussion? If we need clarification, it was stated as temporary.
That's correct.
Yeah, but it's...
Not these.
Or not?
No, not this one.
No, that's how you're...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
These are not temporary, just amending the ordinance.
Thank you. Any other questions for clarity? We'll call the roll on that, please.
Thanks, Gabe.
Huffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Viscus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Weinbach,
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes. And 11G, Mr. Fiskus will abstain on this, is the approval of the council boards and commissions for the 2025 vacancies. Need a motion on that, please? From council. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'd like to make a motion to approve the council boards and commissions appointments for the 2025 vacancies.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on that? Okay, we'll call the roll.
Huffenberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Weinbach,
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes. There is no old business. We'll move to comments. I do have a few that I'd like to say. Relative to emergency measures that are passed, it is a very common practice in council in our county, in our state, and in our country that emergencies are used, not because you're trying to hide something, but it's to trying to expedite ordinances and expedite business. For example, Toledo had a council meeting on December 4th. 86 ordinances were on the agenda that night. Every one of them were passed by emergency. They will have another agenda December 18th, tomorrow night. They have 31 ordinances on the agenda. All of them are slated to be passed by emergency. So it's not necessarily equates to, well, it does not equate to what some people think emergencies are. I mean, it's really to expedite government. It's really to move things along, get things passed. And that's the reason, and it's very commonly used. So I only say that just to educate people as to how they're used and investigate it yourself. I mean, look into it, and you'll see why it's done that way and why governments operate that way. So with that being said, Tuesday, December 10th, we had Shop with a Hero event with the police division and the fire division. And we also had some area departments that participated in that: Waterville Township, Metro Parks, Dallas State Police, White House Police, and our fire division. We had over 40 kids that came to the firehouse, and they were served pizza, and they were taken to Meyer in a caravan, and Meyer donated $135 a child.
Wow.
And everybody, the police and fire, were able to move the kids around and get them gifts that these families normally would not see. There was a number of volunteers there that were actually helping wrap gifts. I was there. I was basically a tape and tag guy. I really didn't. I wasn't a paper wrapper, but that's all right. Mr. Noonan, Mr. Fiskus was there. Appreciate you guys coming and helping out. And a number of other families that came, all families, parents, grandparents, and kids, and they helped. It was a neat family event. Appreciate Meyer, appreciate our emergency services, everybody that was involved in that. It's a great event every year, and you made a difference in a kid's life. So that was cool. Also on the 13th, I attended the musical Merry Christmas Friday night with Libby Survey and Stephen. It was a fabulous show. It was a variety show. It was absolutely awesome. It was packed. 500 people on Friday night. I think they eventually sold out on Saturday night. We went 2.5 hours with a break. It was amazing. Very, very good talent. She had a few people that she knew from Broadway. She had a violinist, a band. A Libby actually went to high school with my son, and they were in a lot of the plays together. And she was very talented then, and she's extraordinarily talented now. She sang a couple of songs from Wicked because she did play Glinda for 10 years on Broadway, and it was amazing. She blew the roof off the place. It was very, very good. And then also on the 13th, that afternoon, my wife and I went to the senior tea at the high school, at the PAC, and there was a number of our senior citizens that were there on that day, and then the high schoolers and the band, select choir, and the orchestra also performed for about an hour, and that was very good too. That was a real treat. Saturday morning, the 14th, I went to Wreaths Across America. That was Saturday morning down at Sidecut Park. Another fabulous event where a couple hundred wreaths with a whole team of volunteers that were there helped lay wreaths on our veterans at our two cemeteries at Riverside and St. Joe's. And that was an awesome event too. So it's been a very busy week for me. It's kind of nice to take a breather a little bit. I also would like to comment about our leaf pickup. I think the crews have done very, very well this year in collecting our leaves, and I equate that to, obviously, weather. We had some dry weather that was very favorable to us, but I remember when I was on the police division, our leaf crews were 4 trucks and 3 people per crew. It took 12 people in our street department to collect leaves every fall. And they could never get it done. Inevitably, it always went until the end of the year or the beginning of next year. Snow fell on them. They froze over. It was a mess. But very inefficient. And the last couple years with our staff, Mr. Birch has recommended this, that we get more efficient with this so we didn't have to spend the money on the personnel. We bought leaf vac trucks, and we have 3 of them, and they're manned by one person with a joystick, and he goes down along the curb, and they're picking them up at a much more rapid pace, and it's cleaning it up nicer. Thank you to staff and that vision and everything that kind of came forward a couple years ago that really made that whole process a lot more efficient. Merry Christmas to council, the community, our staff. It's a great year to give, and you guys have given all year long, and I appreciate that. So we'll move to council members. Ms. Puffenberger.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure everyone has noticed and seen the holiday banners along the Anthony Wayne Trail. To thank the city for getting those and the wreaths on the arches. I think they look really nice. The new railings are up in Uptown to help provide some protection for people who want to dine outside on the sidewalks near traffic. And there's even a lighted bollard down by the West Harrison and Conant pedestrian crosswalk that's been lit. It looks really nice. I want to congratulate the new citizens who are taking on new roles on the committees with the city. Thank you for your interest and willingness to step up and get involved. I know there's lots of comments about how we don't have very many committees for people to serve on. I think what tends to happen is people are only focused on our council committees. There are much more than 3 committees. We have the ADA Advisory Committee, Building Standards and Appeals Board, Charter Review Advisory Commission, Civil Service Commission, Design Review Board, Maumee Valley Historical Society, Monclova, Maumee Toledo Joint Economic Development Zone, Municipal Planning Commission, Maumee Records Commission, SAIL, TARTA, Taxation, TMACOG, Volunteer Firefighters Board of Zoning Appeals, Environmental and Tree Advisory Commission. The mayor makes recommendations at the end of the year for the following year for those terms that are up, and those are all available on the website that you can check out to see when terms are up. And if you're taking note of the agenda, you can see that as well, to be able to express interest for future roles that might be open. And I wanted to remind everyone again about our next movie. that is on January 23rd at 6:30 at the Maumee Indoor. We will have a presentation about the street tree design plan that Bill just presented on tonight, but we will also have our ODNR rep will be there to talk a little bit more about kind of the history as to why they came up with this program and how much it's really helped communities. We get to see it every year at the Tree USA Awards Banquet. There's a lot of communities using it, and it's really helped with nurseries being able to keep in stock trees that they know are going to get sold. And so they're able to kind of better keep their supply up and ready for the municipalities that need that. So they'll be presenting for just a short bit, and then we'll have our movie, which is called Intelligent Trees. And once again, it's based on 2 books. There's 2 authors that speak in the film. It's based on the research in hidden life of trees and finding the mother trees. It's a really good short film. It's 45 minutes. And then we'll have some vendors in the back, like we usually do. That's the plan. So I'd like to invite everyone there, and then just hope everyone has a happy and relaxing holiday season. I'm excited for my 4th year, can't believe it, on council in 2025. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Barrow. Thank you, Mayor McDonald. Just a couple of things. Ms. Palkin had a question to ask here, and I like people coming to council and asking us direct questions that later on will be answered, if they can't be answered here tonight, which is understandable, through the public records request and such, because the things like Ryan alluded to, he had to go get back to his house tonight, but alluded to that so many things are put out there that are untrue and they're biased and they're meant to upset you, and I think we've had just enough of that. Really, we've had just an awful lot of it. It doesn't help anybody, it doesn't help anybody's cause. And Ms. Eckhart, thank you. Oh, Sheila? Oh, there you are, good. I wanted to thank you because when I got on council, I looked at what people's asking, I want this and I want that, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Every day I'm wondering what party I'm on anymore. But I do what's best for the city and the community at all costs. I don't let my personal bias buy into it. When I first got on there, Mayor Carr put me on the environmental committee, it's like, oh, really? Then I met Margot. Oh boy, you heard just like a titch of Margot tonight. But I learned a lot of things, and I was happy to do that, because you have to look at all perspectives. You have to look at everybody's desires, whether you buy into climate change or if you don't buy into climate change or recycling or not. So I've learned an awful lot about trees, planting, the erosion that they save. The loss of our trees is just monumental. 30% for a community, any community, is an awful lot. We had erosion happening on the towpath for 30 or 40 years, or probably 30. We kept putting limestone on the towpath on the driveway going down to the towpath because it would wash out. And we can't do that anymore because it's bad for the environment, and it has phosphorus, I think, in the lime. So whether you like a tree or don't like a tree, or having all the trees that we are planting and planning to go forward with more, they're not hurting anybody. They're nice to look at. They offer us oxygen. They absorb water out of the ground that we don't have to have processed through our sewer division when it finally gets to that. And also, that was the end of that. That's a little part of my presentation to you, Ms. Eckhart, and thank you. We appreciate everything the community does. And again, have a safe and happy holidays. Thank you. Mr. Fiskus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo what you said, Shop with a Hero last week was fantastic. Took my 3 boys with me. They wanted to rap, and we quickly discovered that was a bad idea. They manned the coloring table, which is right up their alley. Pancake breakfast last Saturday at the Firehouse was a wonderful event as usual. Wreaths Across America, that's a great event every year. And then I wanted to recognize the Maumee Band Parent Organization at the band and orchestra concert last week. It was announced that they were selected as the 2025 Ohio Music Education Association Outstanding Music Support Group for the entire state, which is a pretty cool award. The Hardys and Mr. Cox know how much that group does, and traveling all over the state with the band and pushing around equipment, driving trucks, whatever it takes. So it's a well-deserved award, and they're going to be recognized next February at the Maumee Convention. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor McDonald. I was a little disappointed in myself this year. As everyone knows, I really like to honor the veterans that we have, and I didn't make it to the Wreaths Across America because apparently taking care of a kid is a bigger responsibility. But even though I wasn't able to go out and honor any veterans last weekend, I am happy that an individual in this community did reach out to me with an issue that his veteran father had passed many years ago and had never been honored through the flags that are usually placed on the gravestones. And we got together, had a meaningful conversation, made a couple phone calls, and positive news is from now on that gentleman's going to be honored. So I'm happy I was able to at least help honor one of our veterans throughout this season. And finally, I just want to wish everybody happy holidays and a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kurt?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Bill and Margot, thank you for your work and your, the commission members who work with you on developing this planning for the trees and so forth. Unfortunately, Bill, you're about my age, so I can say this, that you won't be around when these efforts come to fruition. Probably, maybe you'll be a 120-year-old guy. Margot will be an old lady telling her great-grandchildren, hey, remember when somebody set this thing up and so forth. But thank you very much. It's 100 years ago or so, probably not quite 100 years ago, there was some guy with the Boy Scout organization who came up with the idea to do that very thing out of the Scout Reservation, the Camp Mayaconda. And you look at it today, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have trees of just about every species or variety that will grow in this area. So whatever that guy did then has come to fruition now, and we appreciate what he did then because we can enjoy it. We can enjoy it now. Is Kristen Myers here? Kristen, my wife asked me, who is Kristen Myers? You get all these emails from this woman, Kristen Myers. Just my quirky way of saying that I'm getting frequent emails from Kristen in the Chamber of Commerce telling me about this ribbon cutting and this celebration and this grand opening and so forth and so on. It's just my quirky way of saying that the Chamber and Kristen and those folks are recognizing and celebrating our fine efforts at economic development. New cookie stores and new stores and so forth that are being developed here in Maumee, and I think it's great. Keeps our community in the 21st century with the economic development efforts and so forth. And I'm just joking about my wife, but as I said, it's a quirky way of saying that I enjoy getting so many emails from Kristen telling me that. Unfortunately, lately I've not been able to attend them, but hopefully as I get a little bit better, I'll be able to attend more of them. So, and finally, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I had hoped to stop up this afternoon on the second floor, but I was unable to. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a safe holiday, and see you later this year, right? We have another meeting this year. No? Yeah, then I'll see you next year. You never know.
I know of.
Thank you. Mr. Linebacker, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. Just want to ask everybody to forgive me for having prepared remarks, but on this last meeting of the year, I wanted to make sure I got some words right. But as this is the last council meeting of the year, I want to express my appreciation for all the amazing citizens we have in Maumee. I'm glad to see the large number of people who attend our meetings, who serve on commissions, who ask questions, and who share their thoughts about the city with me and others, who serve you. For me personally, I've already received my Christmas present for 2024, and it's not gift wrapped under the tree. It's the new relationships that I have with many of you who are sitting in this room. I look forward to your continued engagement with our city government and working with us to make Maumee an even better place to live than it already is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Noonan.
All right, well, number one, I apologize earlier for my slip-up. Councilmember Lineback's going to school me after this meeting because he hates when I do that, so.
No, I won't. I'll do it now.
All right, there you go, see?
You can kiss that State Department job goodbye.
So I apologize.
They're here to arrest you.
No, there we go, yeah.
Sorry, Scott.
So that's the first thing, so I apologize for the earlier slip-up. Second thing, I just want to show appreciation to the what do you call it, the street tree planning design group, and those volunteers. Obviously, through, the towpath cleanup and what have you, I've gotten to know everybody on this list, and obviously, especially Councilmember Puffenberger. So I know this obviously took a lot of effort, so I appreciate every one of you, and I appreciate Bill for doing the presentation. I think this is going to be ending up being a wonderful thing. As someone that admittedly doesn't know a whole lot about trees and environment and what have you, so appreciate all you're doing from this, and then obviously the things going forward, and let me know what I can do to help. So I just wanted to show appreciation to that. Also wanted to show appreciation to the police and fire for the Stop with the Hero. It's already been touched on, but it was a wonderful event. Anything to do with helping kids, I've always been wanting to be a part of those things, and it was a great event, at the fire station and at Meyer. So I wanted to show appreciation to the police and fire and the rest of the law enforcement agencies in the county that, in the state of Ohio, that helped out with that. So, and obviously, appreciation to the firefighters for their breakfast with Santa. That was a cool event, so appreciation for that. And then I'll end this, with I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start by congratulating our fire department. Obviously, as part of the new function, even though we're not completely staffed up, we're looking at numbers at about 50% of the response times we had last year. About half the time we're responding to fires and accidents, which is really good news. I want to talk a little bit about the economic development projects. We have a number of economic development projects going on right now. Probably we have 12 pending development agreements right now that probably mean close to 400 jobs. We also have new housing being developed, not just Metropolitan Holdings, but there's a development agreement that will be signed with Pride One out by the mall. There's also St. Mary's, which is on Arrowhead and Longbow, and another project that's being planned out there in the very recent future, in the near future. So we also have the project that's happening across from the fire station, which is 55 and over housing, subsidized, but is a 62-foot tall building. There is no vinyl on this building. It's quite a project. And many of you have seen that house that gets little by little torn down. Facebook, it talks about, the city's letting them do that. No, we're not, because there's asbestos in that building. We prefer people don't touch the building and start creating a friable asbestos problem and put it through the neighborhoods. That's why the developers, I don't know if they've done it today, but they're supposed to be installing temporary fence around it so they can take it down properly after they give proper NESHAP notice to the EPA, an air quality division of the US EPA. We also, that project will start construction this January. We have a number of large projects, some of which we cannot talk about right now for fear that those projects would fail. We have some very large projects in the hundreds of millions in terms of economic development and jobs that should be happening, that we should be able to get word on within this year. Just a number of projects. I also want to talk about some of the public infrastructure projects, not just the city's infrastructure projects, but the projects that staff and I are working on. They total about $233 million, which includes $120 million in sewer fixes here. But it also includes projects that we touch and review and are working with as partnership with other jurisdictions. Also, I want to talk about, we're having a pretty good response for the signing up for inspections. As of Friday, we had over 200. I think we have a little over 220 today. Most of those have happened in the last 3.5 weeks. Since the last presentation that we had done, talking about that has happened, and we're really excited about that. I've held personally 9 separate meetings with couples trying to understand that process. I encourage people to sign up to those meetings because people are thinking they're going off really well. We sit down for an hour or two and discuss what their options are in terms of the grant process. They are explained what's, on a face-to-face basis about what we learned from the EPA. I want to tell you that we've had an EPA meeting with them on this week, and it's on Friday in Bowling Green. State officials were up here with the attorneys, and we talked extensively about the amount of I&I that they would allow us to do. Now, I just want to make very clear that to the extent the EPA wants us to use a smaller percentage of I&I or inflow and infiltration reduction factor, the more we will have to show in that plan that we're building very, very expensive tanks. We don't want to do that. The first SSES plan was reported to have a 25% reduction in I&I. It built two very large tanks, maybe three, and it also controlled for an event that might happen every 10 years. By the way, this year we've had about 5 10-year events, so that would not work very well. EPA didn't really like that option and told us we essentially have 10 years on that plan. What we proposed to our citizenry is a 75% reduction in I&I, which it virtually eliminates, if we achieve it, eliminates the building of tanks. That'll be expensive for everybody in the future, not just costly infrastructure construction-wise, but also in perpetuity in terms of the rates to which it takes to treat the combined and diluted sewage that we have to send to the county. That being said, the EPA has been gracious. They're not making us go through scenarios. One of those scenarios they admitted was probably beyond what we should have even considered, which was the scenario of alternative conveyance, which was the $750 to $1.2 billion I talked about at the last meeting. They thought that was probably well beyond the means and probably should discard that very quickly. They also have agreed, they look like they're going to only go through one scenario, because before they were talking about, Margot was at the meeting with me, Alan was at the meeting, and our consultant Shannon was at the meeting, and we talked about what the EPA wanted us to do in terms of what analysis we had to do in the scatter plots that we had to perform. One of those were, we literally started at 25% reduction, 10-year event, 25% reduction, 15-year event, 25% reduction, 20 event, and so you're creating all of this analysis, and then you jump to 30% reduction I&I, and then 40% reduction I&I, and you do these all again. The calculations are immense and enormous to prove something we're not quite sure. And we asked him that. We said, I don't know what this is going to tell you other than the fact that we believe the citizens are behind fixing this problem, and that building tanks is not in their best interest and not in anybody's best interest in this community, and we have a small enough community that we could actually take that on. Thank you. And so they agreed. They came back with a 50% figure, which will require us, we essentially agreed but did not ink that yet. They have essentially said that we will be looking at a 50% reduction. They seem okay with that, Alan, right? We're at 50%. And that will require us in between 7 and 10 years to state that if we're not successful in eliminating the SSOs, here's a big one, to a 25 to 50-year event. Before they were telling us absolute elimination. But essentially, a 50-year event is essentially elimination. Many communities, when they get to 25%, a 25-year event, the EPA suggests that is really pretty much elimination. There's no way you can eliminate everything. We believe we can get darn close to that, more than any other community's ever done. So to the extent right now we've eliminated 4 outfalls SSOs, we have 9 to go. They're going to be difficult. One is the Birch Street pump operation you see off of 7th. We are doing our best to make sure that we can eliminate everything on a 50-year event or a 25-year event with essential elimination, which what that means, in a 50-year period, we would have 4 or 5 discharges that we couldn't control because of diluted sewage, and there would be much smaller events because we just don't have the capacity to take on events. There were, in the scatter plot, as far back as the 1970s, there were 2 events that were considered 500-year events. Some of you probably know one was around 1978. Many of you remember that year. And another one was in the early 1980s. The idea is that no one can control for a NOAA level event. I mean, we're not building arcs because there's so much rain. Because sewer systems, if we're at that point, sewer systems all over this country are completely diluted and they're just out of control and they don't work. So that being said, we are working closely with them. We cannot finish the financial analysis, the FCA that many of you know about, determining how long we have to fix and what our interest rate might be in terms of the borrowed money until we determine the percentage of I&I that they'll allow us to take. It's a complicated process. I wish I had more information in terms of every day this changes, right? And we have to convince EPA officials who are used to public officials or local fighting them tooth and nail all the time. We're not doing that. We know what's happened in the past. It's not the right thing. We're trying to correct that. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are moving in the right direction. The EPA will be giving us a letter to that effect. And William Fishbein, the Chief Legal Counsel, said we'd have that letter out hopefully before Christmas. So I think we're moving in the right direction. That is the next step to being able to get in, do a consent decree or consent order with a judge to say that we can spend the money we've promised inside private homes to repair sump pumps and cross connections within a home. So that's the process, and I'm sorry if it seems convoluted, and I do this constantly, so it's kind of hard. Sometimes I miss things that I think I'm saying and I don't, so if I don't, please feel free to give me a call. Many of you have my cell phone number, and I can explain it in more detail. So it's kind of a 10-minute overview or 15-minute overview, whatever this has been, to be able to explain, years of convoluted consulting work with the EPA and our consultants. I do want to get into answers to Ms. Hawkins' questions. Clearly, I don't make $280,000 a year. I make about $100,000 less than that. Everybody gets retirement. That's no different. I get that too. I don't take health insurance with the city. I opt out of the health insurance. I get a stipend to do that like every other employee does. In exchange for taking the insurance, it's cheaper for the city taxpayers to do that. I do not get overtime. Overtime is by Federal Fair Labor Standards Act or by union contract that says that any time over 40 hours are worked in union contract, it's over 8 hours a day, it's not over 40 hours in a week, that you get 1.5%, sometimes on Sunday it's 2, to work hours over 8 hours in a day or 40 in a week. I do not get that, nor do any other salary employees. The ordinances you saw passed tonight by council are all non-union employees, many of them hourly, but the exempt employees, meaning their salary, you'll notice in the administrative support ordinance, which are a little lower paid in the echelon, their secretary positions, clerk positions, so on. Those positions, if they work over 40 hours in a week, or 45 hours in a week, the 46 hour, they get an hour-for-hour comp hour. That is like overtime, but it's a comp hour, and they can accrue that up to a certain amount. If you get to the management ordinance, you also, but in management ordinance, which are supervisors, Josh, police chief, assistant police chief, supervisors in the service department, they're all paid, they work 40 hours, but they're expected to work 40 to 45 to 50 hours. Once they hit 50 hours, the 51st hour is an hour-for-hour comp that goes into a comp bank, paid out when they leave, or they paid out now that the change is here. The city can actually, they can either request, or the city can pay you out for half that accrued comp time to make sure that we aren't paying that out at a higher amount. Because if you keep comp time for 10 years, it's essentially paying a much higher amount than one person accrued that comp. In the director's ordinance, you have to work 55 hours in a week to get an hour of comp. I think that's where this argument gets that I get overtime. It's not uncommon. When I accrue time, I usually work anywhere between 65 and 85 hours a week. I do that all the time. There's a lot of stuff to do here. I'm also the public service director. I'm the public safety director. I'm the administrator. One of the reasons I'm also the public service director is because when I came here, they didn't want to spend the $180,000 package it would take to hire another public service director, and because I had experience in construction, I simply said I would take that job to pay a little more. And I've been doing that ever since. It's not uncommon, but the cost of doing otherwise would be far more expensive for the city and its taxpayers. Do I accrue comp? I do. But often I waive it over 60 and 65 hours. I sometimes won't, like last week I accrued, I think 9 hours, and that was 9 hours over 67 hours. So there's an incredible amount of hours worked that I do. The process by which my severance is paid, if it is, all it is I live on an at-will contract. All this is public, and anybody can have those documents. They've been publicly requested before, and they have them. Typically, in a city manager or a city administrator position, and you see this in the private sector, you also see it in the public sector. These contracts are standard contracts done by the ICMA, the International City County Managers Association. They're recommended. They have severance because, quite frankly, if you're going to discharge a city administrator, you probably wouldn't try to do it for cause. You would do it because you're at will. Say, hey, we're going in a different direction. We're going to nullify your contract. Here's your payout. Here's your severance. And you sign a non-compete, or you sign a paper that says you're not going to disparage each other. That's how this works in this realm. There are about 8,300 city managers in the country operating at any one point, not including middle-level management people, finance directors, law directors that also belong to those associations. So when you see a severance provision, that means at some point, there are administrators or managers that council goes in a different direction, and they say we're going in a different direction, and you move on. You hire somebody else, and that's when a severance is paid. Now, if I committed a felony, then that would be cause, and you would not have to pay the severance. That's how this works. Pretty common. Pretty common for a chief administrative official is a year severance. That's what it is. It's how it goes. I negotiated this when I came, and I probably wouldn't have come without the negotiation, because when you come into a community, I've experienced over 22 years in one community, over almost 9 in another, and I left on my own volition both of those times. I do not, in my experience, many people I've probably worked for 16 or 17 mayors in my career, and close to 65 different council members. I've had a lot of council members go door to door to fire me. And 6 months later, they're in the inside and they look at it and say, oh, I didn't realize how this is run. And I see that because I see a lot of comments on Facebook where people clearly don't understand what the city does. It doesn't mean they should either, because people have their lives and they do things every day that don't encumber and don't encounter the things that we do on a regular basis in running a municipal corporation, which is what this is. We have a process by which we run a business, a very lucrative business in terms of what we do, right? The trust here is really that you're going to produce water that when I turn on the faucet, I can drink it and my family's not going to be poisoned by that. Or that when there's a water main break, somebody is following a federal regulation or law in terms of how that is repaired. How our police protect our staff and our citizenry. How our fire and our EMS make sure that people have people to respond to quickly. All of those things are meshed into a component of why in this state they have administrators and directors which really run the day-to-day operations of government. But for the idea that you are at will, by the way, everybody in this ordinance are at-will people, except for the people who are hourly. But many of them are at-will in all these three ordinances. But in exchange for being able to just say, you're done, clean out your desk today, no hard feelings, you are paid for that balance. And that's how it is done in many cases. Now, in the private sector, it's far more than that in typical severances, but certainly that's not happens in the public sector. But I negotiate my pay on an arm's length transaction, and regardless of whether somebody thinks I make more than the governor has 350 people that make double what he makes that work for him, that are like me, that are managers and bureaucrats. That's negative connotation, but they're people who run the day-to-day operation. The governor doesn't run the day-to-day operation any more than a strong mayor does, or I'm sure Wade is a great, competent person, but they have two people who are deputies that kind of do what I do. So this is not, and remember, and something that I've said before is that when, and I really haven't said it here, is that when you want to change a policy, you simply change a policy. You don't clean house. And I'm not suggesting elected officials, I'm talking staff, right? Staff do this every day. That's what they do. Like everybody in this audience has a job and they know it well and they do it every day. So that sometimes you become second hand. They can do it all the time without even thinking sometimes. But that's what you pay for. You pay that somebody can know this stuff. And sometimes people misunderstand what it is we do or the decisions that I have to make as a city administrator or the Jennifer or Alan or things that we have to accomplish. Sometimes are behind the scenes. I mean, many times what you see here are things that are beyond the scope of what somebody would even want to know. I mean, there's so many different things that we do every day in terms of these things. So that's my transparency. I've never been ashamed of telling anybody what I make, what I do for that money, and how I negotiate my contract. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to give me a call. My number is 734-777-064. I've had that number for 37 years. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm an open book. I can answer any question you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's the wrap for our meeting tonight. So we'll take a motion to adjourn to the next meeting.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will make a motion to adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Well, one caveat, State of the City address is January 21st. It is at the Pinnacle. It is being sponsored by the Chamber. Most of it will be an explanation of what's been accomplished this past year and what we can reveal about what's going to happen next year that we can talk about. So that's the goal. That's on January 21st at 11:30 Pinnacle. And we'll take a second on that adjournment. I would second that motion. Thank you. We'll call the roll.
Offenberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yeah.
Viscus?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Lineback?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.